Scotland might be a wee country, but it's full to the brim with characters.
You won't come too close to me, you might just stay right where you are.
Did I fight it?
Folk who get up to all sorts of things that you might never have heard of. The feeling is like nothing else. You can feel the heat coming off that thing, the ferocity, the intensity. From ancient traditions to fast-growing sports, there are customs, passions and pastimes that don't hit the headlines, yet demand courage and commitment.
They sacrifice so much, social events, parties, to come to cheer.
Bring great joy.
I love this sport. It's absolutely something that means so much to me.
And a deep sense of belonging.
Then you pick it up.
And that's it?
That's it.
In this series, presented by writers who know the communities,
It's not pretty, but it's important because you want to keep your teeth.
we'll delve into our nation's hidden lives. I believe character, not wind or wave or oil, is Scotland's greatest natural resource. My name is Peter Ross. I'm a writer and a journalist. And here, in this sleepy coastal village, there's an abundance of strong-willed characters. Welcome to Burghead. This village in the northeast of Scotland is known as the Broch, and the people who live here call themselves Brochers. Now, if you look around the harbour, you'll see it's a very quiet place, a very charming place, and you might assume that not very much happens here. But for one night a year, in January, Burghead burns brighter than anywhere else in Scotland. Literally. To celebrate the new year, the village holds a fire ritual that is as strange and magical as its name. The burning of the Clavie. A flaming barrel of tar is carried through the streets by the brave and chosen few known as the Clavie crew, in a ceremony that's little known outside the northeast. They bear aloft not only their blazing burden, but a unique heritage. In my 20 years of travelling across Scotland to write about this country, the Clavie is one story that really stands out. An ancient tradition that seems to have survived because of the absolute tenacity of Brochers. Burghead is on the Moray Coast. With a population of fewer than 2,000, it's a wee place. Yet, it was once the site of a huge and important 4th century fort. The village's emblem is a Pictish bull. These powerful animals, with their noble stubbornness, perfectly represent the Brochers, who know their own minds and won't change for anyone, even when it comes to time itself. Hundreds of years ago, when Scotland made the switch from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar, those stubborn Brochers refused to change. So, while the rest of Scotland celebrates Hogmanay on December the 31st, the people of Burghead wait until January the 11th to mark the new year. It's December, and Clavie crew members Jamie Davidson and Lackey Ralph start constructing the barrel at the heart of the Clavie ceremony. So it's 6 foot tall, it weighs 100 kilos, and it's on fire.
Aye.
What's it like to carry that?
Which is why it's important that this is made right. So what's it like carrying that?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant fun. Absolutely fantastic.
You get a heat off of it.
Do you get a big heat off it, eh? I mean, effectively, that's what's sitting on top of your head, where, I suppose, 6, 7, 8 gallons of hot fuel and burning sticks. Other than that, it's fine. Yeah.
Carrying the Clavie is considered a huge honour, and as the lads shape the timbers to create a tight seal between the base and the sides of the barrel, they reflect on the experience of bearing it for the very first time.
You can't describe it. Aye, no, it's just, you can't, Jimmy?
It's just a feeling that it's undescribable, really.
I suppose in a sense it's initiation in adulthood. It's much more than that as well. It's also your forefathers' involvements, and in a sense you're carrying it for them and ensuring that that tradition continues.
Right, Dan?
Hi, Peter. How you doing? Doing all right, aye. Got a job?
Lackey's dad, Dan Ralph, is the Clavie King, which means he's in charge of the whole event. He's also Burghead's undertaker, so while the lads build the barrel, he's working on a new chapel.
This is the chapel, Peter. Not quite finished, but we're about 3/4 of the way there.
I always think, because you're the Clavie King as well as the local funeral director, and I always think of those things being related roles in some way, and that you see the folk at Burghead at their lowest, but also at their most kind of joyful and full of hope. Would that be right to say?
You would be right to say that, and we can feel with them their sadness and their happiness at times like the Clavie.
Dan was crowned Clavie King in 1988. His own father, Jock, had been a pivotal member of the Clavie crew.
It's a hereditary position. You have to have a father, grandfather, uncle, or cousin, or a close relative in the crew to be able to have that honour. And indeed, it is an honour. It's the orders of our ancestors. They did it. We'll continue to do it. We show our identity as being Brochers.
As night falls and the barrel nears completion, Lackey is joined by another member of the crew, Thomas Ross, who knows exactly why it must be so tightly bound.
Because you use creosote in it, which is obviously a liquid fuel, we just have to make sure that there's no drips or leaks come out of it.
But it can do in the back of your neck.
Because that would end up on top of us.
Many northeast towns once had very similar barrel burning festivals, but over time their flames have all died out. Burghead is the last of its kind on the mainland. So why is that?
Being thrown, aye, and just kind of nagging into what you're told to do and what you should do and what you should conform to. Aye, and it's awful important to stick to that, eh? Really, really important. Aye, just to nag you in. Aye, aye.
I think the magic of the Clavie is just that it's unique to Burghead, and it keeps that community spirit amongst us as Brochers. I think that's the magic of the Clavie.
Tradition dictates almost every aspect of the Clavie, even how it is put together, and by whom.
Take a wee walk along to the...
Well, you want to walk along?
Aye.
But there's some of the original stones there.
Donald Talmy is the eldest member of the crew and has the honour of hammering the barrel onto its support. And to do that, he uses a stone that precedes even his involvement in the ritual.
So this is the famous stone that's used to chap in the nail for the burning of the Clavie?
Yes, aye. Well, this stone was found in Burghead Beach. And by who, I don't know, but we've been using it ever since I've been in the Clavie. Now I've been in the Clavie for about 40 years. See, there's some of your stones down there.
Right.
Can you get your camera and see?
But it wouldn't be the right thing to go down and pick one of them and use it. It has to be this one.
It has to be this one. This is the one we use all the year. You just drop it down. Drop it down like that.
Uh-huh.
Onto the nail, and then you pick it up and do the same again.
Yeah.
Oh. That's it.
And that's it?
That's it.
What's it like for you in that moment? All eyes are on you. Is it pressure?
No, there's no pressure.
None at all?
No, no pressure at all. You just get up and do the job.
Right.
The good Lord will look after you.
It's early evening on the 10th of January. Tomorrow night, the Clavie will be burned. But for now, the crew and their families are gathering in Dan Ralph's workshop to put the finishing touches to its construction. Now this in itself is a ritual of sorts. That simple barrel which we saw being built is about to become this mythic object, so important to the village and to its people.
Before Dan's reign, women and children didn't venture into the workshop. This would have been done by the men alone.
Dinner 4 hour. Are you going up and off?
But that's one thing that has changed. Grandchildren and photographers alike observe the crew at work on the Clavie.
They seem to know what they're doing, and I'm just casting a watchful eye on them.
And I've spotted Donald Stone. He'll be using it to drive home a nail that attaches the barrel to its 5-foot support. Tomorrow night, this barrel, filled with burning fuel and sticks, will be carried through a crowd predicted to be more than 3,000 strong. It wouldn't do for it to come loose.
So this is really the moment when it stops being a barrel and starts to become a Clavie.
It's becoming a Clavie.
The first blow was struck by the eldest member of the crew, and now the last by a possible future member.
That's it. Well done. Well done. Well done. Happy with that?
Clavie finished, it's time to feel its weight.
Oh, it's getting lighter every year.
The crew are raring to go, the Clavie is complete. All they'd like now is a fair wind.
I would have liked a bit more wind. It's safer, because the flames are going in one direction instead. If it swirls, you don't get bad for your lungs.
This is the Doory Hill, and the stone altar where the Clavie will end its journey around the town. As you can see from the soot of years past, it's here that it will burn out. But it's believed that the protective power of its burning will last long after the timber has become cinders.
The Clavie is coated in a layer of superstition which is thicker than any tar. It's said that if a member of the crew should drop the burning barrel while it's being paraded through the streets, then some great misfortune will befall Burghead. On the other hand, it's believed to be good luck, powerful magic for any brocher to receive a piece of the burned embers. Now, whether either of those things are true or not, who can say? But I'm on my way now to meet a man who has made it his mission to spread that good fortune around the world. All right, Dan.
I'll soon show you where the Clavie is, my friend.
Former postie and barman Dan Main keeps his own piece of the Clavie in the cupboard under the stairs.
Very sort of piece of the Clavie. Exactly what I was wanting for a house.
It's to bring a bit of luck.
I hope so. I hope so. And that's it. Wouldn't I sell it for the world?
Dan sends to friends across the country and some around the globe pieces of the Clavie to make sure they can share in the Broch's good luck. But it's not always straightforward, especially when posting to pals in Australia.
It has to go through all this customs carry on, which I didn't realise for 1 minute, any time. And it was May Day the last time they got it.
So it's going to take as many months as that to go through customs?
Well, that's what they told me.
Customs officers at the other side of the world might well be confused by a parcel full of charcoal. But Dan's belief in the power of the Clavie goes back to childhood.
When you get your piece of the Clavie, as I say, it's supposed to bring you luck, and it's supposed to ward off evil spirits for a year and a. To burn all the evil spirits out of the town and Clavie night.
And this is what you were brought up believing?
Yes.
So you were always anxious to get your piece?
Yes, I was indeed.
In recorded history, the Clavie has only been stopped twice for the 2 world wars. At a time when the village desperately needed the protective power bestowed by the Clavie most, they weren't allowed to carry out their ritual because of blackout restrictions.
Peter, this is a picture of my father, James Mackenzie, who was a Clavie king from 1946 when he came back from the war.
This is Rosemary Davidson. Growing up, she felt like royalty.
My father was a king, my mother was a queen, and I was a princess. You know, my mother...
Rosemary's dad took on the role of Clavie king after returning from service overseas.
So what do you think it would have been like for your father and for the others to come back from that darkness and that horror and light that first Clavie in 1946 back in their hometown? It must have been quite something.
I think it would just be amazing for them, and I think it was a great privilege for them to be asked to do it. And knowing my father, he would have just been delighted, absolutely delighted to do it.
This is interesting. So this is where they hand over the burning staves.
Yes.
And it's supposedly for good luck, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
This is what I wanted to ask you, was whether you believe in the power of the Clavie, the magic of it, if you like.
Oh, I do. And I would be very disappointed if I didn't get a piece of the Clavie.
At one time, this village would have relied completely on its fishing fleet. Many of its sons went to sea. And one of the most powerful Brocher superstitions, a fear of dropping the Clavie, is believed to stem from a fishing disaster.
In 1913, the Clavie was dropped. Someone slipped in snow. And the following day, a local herring drifter was lost off the north coast of Ireland with all hands. She was a prominent and local man. And of course, they blamed that on the Clavie being dropped.
So it's a serious business you need to make.
Aye, we've got to be extremely careful. And then, if you spilt 20 gallons of boiling creosote and tar on anybody, that's not going to be too well after that. So we're very, very careful.
But even when the crew are careful, as these pictures from 2018 show, accidents can happen.
Oh my God, what is that? It's swollen his arm. Oh no.
Thankfully, serious injuries are very rare, and this man was fine.
Has the Clavie ever stopped for any reason other than wars?
No other reason. No, nothing would stop the Clavie.
But what if the authorities just tell you this thing's too dangerous, it can't go on, it has to stop?
No, that'll not happen. No. People power would prevail and we would continue as before. As I say, we're pretty tough.
What strikes me about that conversation with Dan is his absolute determination that this ritual will always go on and must never change.
But can, or indeed should, the Clavie stay the same forever? Because the forces of modernity aren't just restricted to health and safety. There are other pressures on the tradition.
One woman, who prefers to remain anonymous but calls herself a proud Brocher, has written to the local paper, and she asks a very simple question. Should there be women in the Clavie crew?
It is, she writes, a unique gift of which we are all equal custodians, and concludes that tradition should not be used as an excuse for inequality. And another woman wrote, "Is it nae time that Aberdeen got a chance, on merit and desire, whatever colour, creed or sex, to carry the Doory fire?" I would have liked to speak to those women, but despite efforts to contact them, they remain anonymous. and Dan remains strongly wedded to his position.
I suppose there are women who are stronger than men, but not in the Broch here, no. They know their roles and they're happy to let the men folk get on with burning the Clavie and upholding our tradition.
It pretty much looks the same as it does now. I wondered what Rosemary, the only child and daughter of a Clavie king, thought of this.
I would be annoyed if I saw a woman in the... Oh yes, it's not a woman's thing, it's definitely a man's thing.
In the future, other generations might take a different view. Perhaps one day there will be a Clavie queen. For now, the event carries on unchanged. The sun sets on the 11th of January. It's Clavie night. For the rest of Scotland, Hogmanay is long forgotten. But for the Brochers, it's time at last to celebrate the new year.
It's coming up on 6 p.m. There's a lovely smell of chimney smoke in the air, but stronger than that is a sense of anticipation.
Dan, in full regalia, collects a small, smouldering peat to ignite the Clavie. It's actually a rather quiet moment, a rather solemn moment, before the great blaze of a ritual is born. This will be the 31st time he's sparked the flame.
Indeed, it is an honour, and it gives you a great feeling of pride at being part of such an ancient tradition. In these present days of technology and modernisation, this is not modern in any way, it's almost primitive.
The Clavie is on the move, a train of sparks, smoke and gleeful folk trailing behind it. Staves burned in the barrel are presented with appropriate ceremony to a few special houses and businesses around the village, those with a long-running connection to the ritual. This year, a VIP is also waiting to receive one.
There she comes. Oh, well done, Annie.
This is Annie McPherson's house. She's 100 years old, she's the oldest lady in Burghead, and she's decided to mark the occasion by coming home to get a piece of the Clavie to bring her luck for the coming year.
As the crew near the deceptively steep Dewry Hill, they must squeeze through a narrow lane. They pause and gather themselves before tackling the ascent. Fresh, strong legs are required for the final push. Fuel drips onto backs, boots and arms. One of the crew told me they're born with a bit of creosote in their blood. With the Clavie finally in place on its stone altar, the crowd can really enjoy the display. But the magical spectacle of the Clavie hasn't reached its climax yet. The crew still has another trick to play. With casual ease, a bucket of fuel is flung on the fire. The wall of heat hits with a wallop that stops your breath. The explosive force sending shockwaves of delight through the gathering.
To be there, close to the flames, is absolutely unbelievable. The feeling is like nothing else. You can feel the heat coming off that thing, the ferocity, the intensity. It's indescribable, it's beyond language, it really is something else.
The Brochers are impatient to secure their good fortune for the next year, keen to get their hands on a piece of the Clavie, even if it's still a light.
Get a wee bit of the Clavie here if anybody's wanting a wee bit. Boys, you want a wee bit? Just still on fire, okay?
So this is what it's all about, a bit of the burned Clavie. This is my good luck for the year. I'm very glad to have been here and to seen this and to take this piece home with me.
Well, it's burning really well, so we're very happy. And it's looking good, so a bloody picture.
It is indeed, and one Dan Ralph won't turn his back on willingly.
Do you ever think about retiring?
Oh no, Clavie Kings don't retire. They die and they're replaced. And I think it's vital that we still have just a wee glance occasionally back into our ancient past. The people here were extremely poor. They struggled to survive. And I tell children and grandchildren, don't ever forget, don't ever lose sight of the rough, tough life they had here. And that's what made us what we are now. We're determined people and we get on with life.
Happy New Year to you, Dan. That was amazing, absolutely amazing. You've done your duty as Clavie King for another year.
I can relax now. Slange.
The flames are beginning to die down now. Soon nothing will be left but ashes and memories. But what memories? The thing that I love about this is that it isn't done for tourism, it isn't done for the local economy, it's done because it has always been done and it must and shall always be done. It's by the Broch and for the Broch. And I think that's the reason why it doesn't feel like it's for one night only. It feels somehow eternal. The burning of the Clavie surely will burn forever.